Let's bring in Texas Congressman and Clinton supporter Joaquin Castro. Thank you so much for being here. It's nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Happy 4th of July weekend.
And to you, too. I appreciate that. Let's get this conversation underway. Are you concerned, sir, about potential fallout from the FBI investigation? And what happens if the agency releases its report before the Democratic convention?
Well, I think that in the end, they will find that Secretary Clinton did nothing wrong. She's acknowledged that she should have used email in another way, but there was nothing nefarious about it. And I think in the end, she'll be fine.
Why do you think this idea of Clinton as being untrustworthy persists even after her decades in the public eye? Or is it because she's been in the public eye for decades?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is no perfect leader in this country, certainly no perfect political leader, and all of us make our mistakes and have our foibles and our weaknesses. Secretary Clinton, during her career, has done amazing work on many fronts, and she's also acknowledged when she's made mistakes, including just recently with this email.
What about national security? I want to ask you specifically about that because it's something that I know you deal with regularly, being on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and House Armed Services Committee, both of them there. The head of NYPD's Counterterrorism Bureau just said in an interview that it is inevitable. Now, I want to point out that is his word, that there will be an attack in the U.S. Do you agree with his assessment?
Well, unfortunately, we know that terrorism is now essentially franchised. There are many franchises, mostly of Al-Qaeda and ISIS fronts. There are folks who are recruiting people from this country and other countries to travel around the world to train and then carry out attacks. The other thing that they do is they inspire people to do lone attacks. So I agree that we have to be especially vigilant. It means not only cutting off the lines of financing and communication for these terrorist groups, but also intelligence gathering and information sharing with our allies around the world.
I'm curious, though, how much time and concern, if you can categorize it, does Congress spend in the wake of attacks like the one in Turkey and Bangladesh this week? I mean, are you preparing for a heightened threat level here?
Absolutely. There isn't a single person in Congress who doesn't take this seriously, who doesn't think about protecting our nation. I think that's both a Democrat and Republican concern. Now, I do think that we also should take a look at doing something on gun violence. We saw what's happened in Orlando and many other places, and so I hope that when we come back July 5th, Congress will do something about gun violence.
There are a lot of people who join you with that sentiment, sir. What do you think might be different this week?
Well, I was encouraged to see Speaker Ryan say that he's going to allow the Congress, the House of Representatives, to take a vote, just as the Senate did. Now, that vote has to be a meaningful one. It can't be something that's just a dog and pony show, passing a bill just to say that you passed a bill. We're hopeful that we're going to see substantive legislation, the kind that Senator Collins has proposed and others, something that is really meaningful, that will help close the gun show loophole and other loopholes, and also help us do background checks on folks.
You know, I'm curious, when you're walking through the halls of Congress and you're up on Capitol Hill and you run into your colleagues, perhaps those who may differ from your opinion on gun control, people perhaps on the opposite side of the aisle, do you guys ever have off-the-record personal conversations where you have like-minded approach to gun control, or is it really, really so divisive?
No, there are times when you have really heart-to-heart or candid conversations with people, and invariably, people are, in those private moments, much more flexible in terms of what they would do legislatively. But as you know, when you're part of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, oftentimes you have different bases that are a base of people that are challenging you to do certain things. And I think for Republicans, part of the problem is that so many of them are so fearful of the NRA. They're so fearful of losing in their Republican primaries because congressional districts have been so gerrymandered by the states. And because of that, even though some of them may have a good heart or mind on this issue and be willing to go further than they have, they keep coming back to pleasing that base. They keep coming back to not wanting to upset that base. And that gets you gridlock on an issue where 90% of Americans think that we should pass a bill on background checks. 90% of Americans agree with the no-fly, no-buy legislation. And so right now, we're at a moment where Speaker Ryan has to decide whether he's going to put a substantive bill on the floor for the Congress to consider.
I very much appreciate that.